it's okay if you don't get something or you don't get what you wanted or it doesn't go the way you wanted and you feel things like we're humans. It's okay.
Mhm,
But knowing that
absolutely.
it's not the be all end all of who you are and what your career will be.
Today's guest is a true Broadway force, a standout performer whose work in shows like Fosse and Sweet Charity helped define an entire era of dance on stage. Now she's bringing that same artistry to the other side of the table as a visionary choreographer. After years of acclaimed work across stage and screen, she just made her Broadway choreographic debut in just in time, solidifying her place as one of the most exciting creative voices working today. Please welcome the incomparable Shannon Lewis. Hi,
Hi.
Shannon.
Hi.
Okay, we just have to talk about a few things before we really dive into the deep
Let's
end.
go.
What has been your favorite Broadway show to work on?
Oh gosh.
I
I
know
mean,
there's so many.
you're gonna start with that one. It's like
Yes.
who's your favorite child?
Honestly, people say not to ask, but I know I am my mom's favorite child. Sorry to my siblings. I know. I'm sorry.
I think I can compartmentalize it more by saying currently Just in Time being my Broadway choreography debut, favorite choreography debut show. There we go. And then I think it's hard to pick a favorite show that I was in, but I think Fosse actually holds a very close, it's very close in my heart because it was something that I worked on with Gwen Verdon and Anne Ranking and Chet Walker in a
Casual.
room. We really didn't know if it would ever make it to Broadway. I was just a part of like this group that was really loving the work and uncovering it. And then when it got to Broadway and inspired many generations of dancers and we won Best Musical, that felt like it was really, really special. So it's hard to pick them all though, because then I was also in Candide and I worked with Hal Prince and Pat Birch. And my Broadway debut was in Crazy for You with Susan Stroman. And so how can I choose?
How can you choose? I absolutely understand that. So, hat tilt or shoulder roll? What's your go-to?
Oh,
Or is there something else that you're like, no,
that's a
this
really
is
good. You know
me?
what's really funny is both because I literally do both. I do like the hat tilt and I also do a little something.
We love a good
So maybe
little
it's both.
shoulder
Maybe
roll.
it's like the hat tilt and then the shoulder roll under the brim.
Ooh, I love that. I also just love anything that's like just the isolations. I'm not very good at them, but I love
Well, you just
those.
did it really well right there.
This podcast is now done. This was the purpose. I needed Shannon Lewis to say
You're
this to
hired
me.
instantly.
Okay, what do people get wrong about you?
Oh, I think people don't know that I'm actually kind of a shy person ultimately.
What?
Yeah, I think
Shannon.
I think that happens a lot with performers. I'm it's not that I'm putting on a persona, but that I love my individual downtime. I love being like I'm a quiet person. I'm not an extrovert. I am an introvert and I need to recharge my battery. I definitely need to be like I go away from people. I like take time for myself and then I can come back out and be social. So I think people would be surprised to hear that. You seem surprised to hear
I do. Well,
that.
also, Shannon walked in so confident and also has the best outfit on. There's like a skull on the back and it's bedazzled. I mean,
I mean, it's really who I am. Business in the front and party in the back.
I love it. So, mentioning your Broadway debut, when you think about that, I mean, it's a very different time than it is now, obviously. Did you ever imagine that 25 years later, you would still be in this incredible industry?
Absolutely not. No. I thought I would do one Broadway show. I was in my teens when I got that show. And I originally grew up in just outside of Toronto, Canada. So I came here and was like, I'm going to have this adventure and I'm probably never going to work again. And that's okay. I'm going to soak up every moment. So I really was here kind of as like it was my school because I left school to come here. So I was just like, I'm gonna have every experience I can have. Someone asked me to be a part of their workshop or take a class. I'm gonna say yes to everything because why wouldn't you say yes to everything? There was no internet back then. I'm that old. And there was really no cell phones either. So it was really just me kind of without my family, without my foundation that was still all back in Canada, kind of just like spreading my wings and going like, let's take this all in. I really thought, okay, Crazy for You will close. It ran like another 2 years. And then when it got its closing notice, I was like, I was already at another show and I couldn't believe it. I thought, well, that'll be my last one. And then that kind of continued for many years. So yeah, I didn't think I would ever keep working. Every show I got was a surprise.
And then you continued to get many shows.
Yeah.
You didn't get cats, though.
Not get cats. We
That's
discussed that
disappointing.
early on that I just for cats a lot, and I really cats was like a real inspiration for me. The tour came through Toronto, and I didn't grow up with musicals in my life. None of my family is in show business. I danced and did gymnastics, but I'd never really been like a musical theater person. And my mom took me to see Cats, where I normally got to see the ballet playing. And I was like, "What is this magic? This is a thing that people actually do, like, you can do this for a living," and the Siamese cat was fascinating to me, and I was like, I wanna be in that show," and so I always wanted to be in Cats, and I auditioned for the Broadway company many times when it was still running in the tour. I think I did book the German company at one point, but I had lied and said that it was over 18. And I wasn't, and so they couldn't take me over. I'm sort of glad that I didn't get cast because I see what it did to people's bodies that had did that show. And so I never did that. So I still have knees that bend.
That's great.
Yeah,
We love that for
it's
you.
good.
So I feel like all of us sort of have a one that got away, whether in life, love, all the things. Is there a role that got away for you?
Nah, I don't know how to answer that. There are definitely I auditioned like 1,000,000 times and I got like 10 things, right? So all of the other things that I didn't get, I don't look back on them that way though. I think every time I walk in a room for a final audition or had a callback that I didn't get it, I learned something. And that it wasn't for me, right? That's okay. It's something that it all went in my sponge to kind of like keep for later. But yeah, I don't think so. I had more, opportunity than I ever imagined I would. I got further than I ever imagined I would. Every time I did book a job, I was like, "Oh my god, I booked this job. That's incredible." I didn't get, contact when it first arrived on Broadway because those of us who were doing the Fosse, were on the pre-Broadway, like, national tour of it, and we weren't really available. We were locked into contracts, and when that show came out, all dancers were like, that's such an amazing dance show because it really was narrative. It really was like storytelling dancing with these iconic roles. And then I got the standby. 2 years into the run, I ended up standing by and going on and taking over all three roles: girl in the yellow dress, the wife, and the girl in the swing. And I got to play all of those parts on Broadway,
Wild.
which is crazy. And that was really satisfying because I always thought like, oh, what it would be like not just the amazing girl in the yellow dress role, but the wife was really the kind of the driver of that story and the engine of that story. And I got to play that role and it exceeded all my expectations. I loved playing that. It was one of the best things I think I've ever done in my career.
But you've done so many
I
things.
have I have
Wow,
done a lot
that's
of things. Yeah.
incredible. I've been talking with so many performers in different places in their career, and even really early on when you're just trying to get that one thing that you think will change everything, I think sometimes it can be really disheartening.
Oh yeah.
I guess, I mean, kind of anywhere you are in the
Mhm.
process, if you love it and you just want it feels like you're begging, "Please, please let someone see me and let me take this moment."
Right.
Did you have moments like that early on that, like, you still think about?
Oh, sure. I mean, I think we all kind of have them on certain levels. Obviously, not at a higher level, you're getting more opportunity, but there's that thing of like, like where do I go next? Or who can I work with and how is this all going to work out? Like, yeah, I think operating from a place of desperation, I've learned in my years on this planet is probably not the best place to operate from. But it exists and we're human beings, right? So we're going to feel that. But turning it into more of like, how can I create my own opportunities? And looking to people and seeing like if how outside the box they were. Like there's not one true path to success in this business. That's one thing that you can look at someone's career and go like, I'm going to model it just like that person. But we all have so many different ways to get there. And who would have ever thought that me growing up in Toronto would have been plucked out of obscurity and placed on Broadway and then take a dance class and meet Gwen Verdon and Chet Walker and be a part of I mean, how did that happen? Well, it happened because I was saying yes to a lot of things early on in my career. And I knew very strongly who I was and what I could offer. And then I was open to learning more. So I think if you start from that place of like, if you're not getting where you want to go, that you start to think, okay, well, who am I? What do I offer? And how can I do that better than anybody? And then also walk in a room and be ready for new information as well. I think that's really the way to do it.
That does feel like the absolute through line of your career.
Yeah.
I think sometimes of my friends who have been performing on Broadway for a few years and everything hurts. And I think it's hard to step away from this version of the dream that we have. And also knowing that you can step away and also come back.
Yeah.
And you have done so many different things in your career. And I do think that's part of why you've had so much longevity in this.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it was never planned, right? Like, I was never like, "Then I'm gonna do this," and then there were times in my career that I was frustrated that I've spoken a few times this season about becoming a choreographer and I was a dancer for so long and a performer for so long that I loved it, and I considered myself a muse for other people, and I was very, very good at it, and I love that word because it also implies, like, a collaboration too with the person. I wasn't just being told what to do. There was a conversation often with choreographers that I worked with frequently or directors that I ended up working with frequently that I was a part of that conversation, but not the whole conversation. So I would finish, doing a rehearsal, and then I would see the director, choreographer, and the creative team huddle up at the front of the room and talk about what was next or how they felt. And I started understanding that I desperately wanted to be a part of that conversation, that I really had ideas and that I had things to say and I was leaning forward wanting to know what they were saying. And it surprised me because I'd always been so satisfied. I reached the goal and exceeded it far beyond that I thought I ever would. And here I was, doing starring featured things on Broadway and still wanting to be a part of that other conversation. So that once that happened a few times, it kind of pinged in my brain that I might want to open a new door creatively. And that's where I started really kind of delving into like, what is it? Do I want to direct? Do I want to choreograph? I definitely want to be creative. Should I start to associate, which I did? Should I start to dance captain, which I did? Should I just start being on the other side of the table and seeing what that felt like? And as soon as that happened, the floodgates really opened for me. And it started happening faster and faster that I was being taken away from this performing thing that I'd done for so long. And people kept saying to me, "Well, you're not really going to start performing. Look, you can still do it. You still have so many years left." And I was like, what does that even mean? What does that actually mean though, really? Like to them, they really wanted me to continue to do the thing that I was always doing. But I think as creative artists and souls, you have to keep searching for the next level and layer of yourself, especially if you're lucky enough to be around as long as I have. I wanted more opportunity to just discover who I was as a creative person. So that's really where it came from. And then as soon as I started doing that, I started realizing that like, okay, here I am. I have these opportunities. Now, am I any good at it? Because you don't know until you know, right?
You
I knew
really
I was really
don't.
good at performing, but I didn't know if I was going to be good or if I could make a living at it. And that was the next step for me to kind of go, okay, let's see what happens. And I'm sitting here now talking to you with a Broadway show as a choreographer. So
It's
that's a crazy journey
incredible.
too.
I mean, your career has spanned so many different genres and eras in a way. And I I feel like when I think of you, I think of reinvention in the best, most kind way of someone who is constantly just redefining and
Mhm.
tweaking and just being better. And I feel like I imagine the Shannon, 15 years ago was honestly probably similar in spirit as the
Yes.
Shannon now. And I think the same will be true of 15 years from now. Moving into choreographing almost full time, I would say, because still do so many other things.
I'm a full-time choreographer now. I mean, now I'm a creative director and
Mm.
director, but yeah.
Yeah, you do
Yes.
your hands are in many a
Yes.
thing.
True.
What has been the most rewarding part?
Such a good question, but mentioned like you said like my detail orientedness of my career. And I have a motto that is that I live by and it's how you do anything is how you do everything. And I really do live by that, the detail with every single thing, like even the outfit that you mentioned that I wore today, I love the details of things, the nuances of things. And you can't always get to that right away, right? But I think that's always part of my journey that as a dancer, I approached everything like that if I was doing 8 shows a week, you have to make it new every time. You have to, reinvest every show. And you have to, if you're in a show for 2 years, that's doing the same exact thing for 2 years every day, 6 days a week. You have to be invested in the detail. You have to be invested in how can you make it fresh. And so I've carried that forward, I think, to what I'm doing now, which is how you do anything is how you do everything. Like, what is the detail? What is the inspiration that was the kernel of the thing that you can keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going. Did that answer your question? Okay.
Absolutely. And it actually makes so much sense why you have expanded into not only being a choreographer, which of course is a full time, but then you
Yeah.
also have the creative director, and then you also
Hmm.
have all these things. You have so many things that are full
Yeah.
time,
Yep.
and that requires being able to both zoom in and zoom out,
Yeah.
which is a lot to
Yeah.
have in one mind.
It is, I know. It's kinda crowded in there sometimes. But
But
the
it's a
bigger
great
picture that you're
thing.
talking about, the bigger picture always was always my thinking, and I didn't really identify it until I stepped away from performing, that I was always thinking, like, I think the best performers do. If you're down center doing your solo, you have to know what's behind you. You have to know what the lighting is. You have to know when the scene changes are. You have to understand all the parts, at least I did. And I think if I just kind of turned my focus to apply that to the other side of the table. And I think really good choreographers and directors do have to think of the bigger picture. You can't just, you have to be granular about it, but you also have to think big picture um, and paint that picture beautifully and then go in detail and then go in
Mhm.
detail. So yeah, it's always been a part of my brain, and the multitasking of it all is really fun. And I don't get overwhelmed by it. I actually get really excited by
Mm.
the more things that are placed on the table. I'm like, okay, look at it. The more things to play. Okay, more things to play with, more crayons to draw with. It's great.
I love thinking about the sort of zoomed in focus you have for film TV because you're
Yes.
operating within a frame, and usually it's a relatively tight frame for
Yep.
something like SNL.
Yep.
And then you think of zooming all the way back for just in
Theater.
time,
Mhm.
and you're seeing things. I mean, you have to choreograph for people seeing things up close to make sure this looks good from
Mhm.
the front row, but also how does it play to the back of the house?
Yeah.
That's a lot to go on.
Yeah. No, it's I was saying to someone recently that just in time is a perfect marriage of the things that I do really well as a choreographer and the opportunities I've had in film and television, and then also in this immersive space for just in time, where it is like a 360 kind of, everything has to move together, but also we have to know exactly where the focus is. And if you're sitting by one side of the theater where the B, we call it the B stage, the smaller stage, you're really zooming into that. But the people on the other side have to get the bigger picture. So it really was using all parts of my brain. And obviously, shout out to Alex Timbers, who's a visionary director, obviously pulling it all together, and all the people on the creative team, Derek McLean, Justin Townsend, Peter Hylinski sound, like all the people. If I'm forgetting anyone, I'm sorry about that, but they're all incredible. And it really was a collaborative effort with all of those parts together. But yeah, the SNL of it all is the craziest job in the world, because I have done other film and television work. People are very fascinated by the process at SNL because it's an impossible process. Like
Yes,
it should not happen, but
correct.
every week it gets pulled off, and it almost barely doesn't get pulled off. And truly, it doesn't. And everyone on that set and on that team and in that building is the best of the best of the best of the best. And they're all working at their highest level, and we're all working like at a breakneck speed. So it's like having all of that and doing all of that, and then understanding that it's comedy, right? Hopefully, most of the time is
Hopefully.
hopefully it's comedy. Um, but comedy requires like really specific takes, right? Like how are you going to play this? Is it like what's the definition of comedy, especially with dance? Like how can I punctuate that dance or create that dance so that it's actually funny and it dovetails with what's been written, but also allows the performers who come from an improv background to improv within and be who they are, because everything is obviously scripted and written, but sometimes it's really just about what the performers are bringing and capturing a moment that happens in the moment just spontaneously. So, trying to create a foundation of dance and movement around that is a very big challenge every week for
One skill that you have is also making people who are not considered dancers feel wildly comfortable. Because I don't think Jonathan Groff would necessarily call himself a dancer. I think he's a great mover,
Definitely, yes.
but
I mean,
he
yeah.
feels so comfortable with your choreography and the way that you push him. And that's incredible.
I mean, first of all, he's like one of the most talented people I've ever met. His talent is so wide ranging and multi layered, and he's so intelligent about not only himself, but the projects that he gets involved in and how he researches and fits himself in and collaborates. He's really, truly like in his own category, in the best way. I just love and adore him, and I love and adore working with him. And yeah, I mean, listen, Jonathan tapped famously. If you can go on YouTube right now
Mhm.
and type in Jonathan Groff tap dancing, and you'll find some stuff, which is so fun to watch. But you can see that it's not full technical jazz dancing. It's not, you know, choreography that was created for him. which we did on this show. And so, yes, he had some dance skill and some understanding of movement, of course, because he's like a fully rounded performer that loves to just like keep learning and learning. And so when this came up in the first, when I was hired, we started talking about it, and he confided in the team that he'd always wanted to do a big dance show, and he felt like this story was already had dance forward in the storytelling. So when he confided, and I said, okay, well, that's really exciting. So we did a little dance workshop, and I put forward huge dance concepts to the director and the team, and we kind of put them on their feet, and it became really clear that Jonathan was incredible, and I could see such an extreme potential for him to go so far in the dance, and he could too. And we felt that it was not just that, but it was appropriate for the show and for the storytelling of the show, because there's all these numbers where Bobby Darin would appear on Ed Sullivan doing like huge dance numbers and things like that. So we were like, okay, let's go for it. And then he asked me if I would sort of help him and train him for the rigors of 8 shows a week, and also just give him a foundation of, how to learn that much choreography in your brain, right? You have to get, I call it the dancer brain, doing the dancer math, of like, how can I get through this 8 show a week? Like, where can I kind of coast along, or where can I like make the shapes? And we talked about that too. We just went really deep into the whole training process, which is like training for the Olympics,
Very
really.
much. I
It really
consider the
was.
Broadway, the Olympics, especially
Yes,
such a dance heavy show
it
where it's
is,
not
yeah.
just like you're not doing like a little two step, you're not
Nope.
doing just jazz squares. Like
Mm-mm.
there are many a thing happening in this
And it
show.
never stops moving. That's the thing.
Never.
And Jonathan is at the front of it all. He leads the way. And everyone in the show moves, but especially Jonathan and our siren characters, our three incredible female performers that we named the sirens, that are sort of with him all the time. But the show never stops moving. There's an urgency to it. The movement had to be created in a way that we moved all over the space, and we have different entrances and exits that are surprising sometimes, but also are storytelling in their nature. So yeah, it was exciting for me to have that giant monster, to stare at that giant monster and go like, okay, this is like really something. And then you have Jonathan, who is like, push me, let's go.
Oh, what
I
a
want to do, let's, how
dream.
much, like, that's great. But like, what about this? What about that? And then he would have inspiration, and then we would make it again, and I would have inspiration, and Alex would say something, or the music would say something to us. And so it was really just, we kept growing it and growing it and growing it. And I just went back to see the show like 2 nights ago, and he's gone even deeper. The choreography obviously is what it is now, but he's now really, really feeling it out and owning it every day more and more, as you do on Broadway. If you see someone who's been doing a show for 2 years, it's like in their DNA by that point, and that's happening with him too. So it's exciting.
What a gift it is to work with someone who is just like you. He says yes to everything. You say yes to
Yes,
everything.
yes,
I think that is truly one of the mainstays of a real long-standing, grandstanding career in this industry. You have to say yes, and you have to find ways to challenge yourself. I think the day you go, I'm done, I don't wanna do anything else, like, that's when it ends, because this
yeah,
has to be fun. And if you're doing the same thing for 30 years and you look up and you're just like, "Okay, 30 years have passed," like, that's not a life. Or
yeah,
maybe, I mean, it's not a life for, I think, for Broadway performers and
yeah.
artists as a whole.
I mean, I think you do. When I teach a lot of younger, wonderful, talented folks coming up through the ranks, because I believe that I've been given such incredible knowledge, and I believe in passing it on. Passing it on shouldn't stay with me; it should be passed on to the right people at the right time, obviously. So teaching is a huge part of my life, and I'm constantly like saying to them, all the doors are open to you right now. Every door is open to you. Open them all. Try everything. Do everything. Don't say no. Say yes. But I definitely feel like later in your career, as you go, it's okay to say, that doesn't work for me, or that wasn't a good experience. I don't want to go back through that anymore. That's okay. You get more specialized as you go. So I think I would modify it by saying, say yes to everything, and then really know yourself. And then when you are saying that's not for me anymore, you've explored it to the point where you're like, I just don't want to do that anymore. Right? I mean, because that's okay
Absolutely.
too. You don't
That's
have to say
okay.
yes to things you don't enjoy.
Exactly.
Definitely. And I think as you evolve as a person, as a performer, as a creative soul, you will find that you kind of hone in on certain things.
A piece of advice that has always stuck with me is say yes. And period, full stop, say yes. but also another piece is say no. Because I
Yeah.
think sometimes we say, "Oh, like, we should say yes to absolutely
Right.
everything." And then I think also you have to give yourself permission to trust that you can make the decisions for yourself and you don't always need to just do something for the sake of being able to say you did it.
Yeah.
But I think it's hard in this industry where it's easy to be very discouraged by a no or sometimes a yes, and to want to make the decisions for the long haul, but also you need a job. You need a job.
Yeah, I mean, I think uh, what I was thinking about when you were talking was that no one wants to have their power taken away. No one wants to feel powerless. Everyone wants to feel like they're a part of the conversation or a part of their own decision making tools, right? And self. But this business isn't always set up that way, right? That you are going in and selling your wares in a final callback and being like, okay, I hope this works for you, and someone else makes the decision for you. But the more you can empower yourself to go, that's not part of my decision making. I can't make the final decision, but I can control this. I can control that. I think that's where people who've been in this business a long time really thrive. That you have to sort of give the final decision is not yours always, but you can make the final decision for yourself on how you act within that.
I feel that in my soul.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not easy and it takes
No,
time
it's
and it's
not.
not gonna happen every time either. It's okay if you don't get something or you don't get what you wanted or it doesn't go the way you wanted and you feel things like we're humans. It's okay.
Mhm,
But knowing that it's
absolutely.
not it's not the be all end all of who you are and what your career will be in those moments. There are other opportunities that will come because you didn't get that or because you learned something from that experience. So I feel like not to be Pollyanna about because believe me, I've had my share of like tequila after a bad audition. Like I understand that and also like look at in this side of the table too, like there's jobs that I think, oh man, I really wish I could have been a part of that show because I would love to get my hands on that, but it's not always meant for me, and I can be inspired by other people's work and be ready for the next thing too.
Something I've been thinking about is as we get older, we start to stray away from that idea of, oh, if Shannon books this, then that means I can't book
Oh yeah.
this. As I get older, I'm going, oh, Shannon, you booked that incredible. I cannot wait to continue cheering you on and clapping for you, knowing that you can shine and I can also shine. My light does not dim your light and vice
Yeah.
versa.
Yeah, it's a big thing, isn't it? Because it's a competitive industry. And there's times too when people are like having their moment. I'm putting air quotes around having their moment where it's so great to see somebody just go and fly. Like they've been working for so many years on little things and been like seeing them and you're like, okay, that person's really coming up, coming up, coming up. And then they finally get their moment. And it's like I find it so inspiring. I really, really do. Like watching friends or peers get their moment and do great work. And you go see it and you're like, wow, that is like the perfect thing for that person. And how great is that? I hope that happens for me too. I think that's the way you can turn it around. I hope that happens for me and that they hope that for you as well. Nobody can do everything all the time either.
Mhm.
Even if you don't wish that person well, they're probably busy with something else. So
Right.
that opens the door.
There I used to think that if I hadn't made it on Broadway at 19, that there would never be an opportunity for me. And what a funny thing time is and growing older, like what a privilege that is to go, oh, it just wasn't my time. But then I see one of my favorite humans on Broadway right now is Tatiana Cordova, who
Oh,
you've
yes.
worked with,
Yes,
and
I worked with her last year.
getting to see her shine in this huge way is just one of the most magical things. I love being on this side and being able to watch and celebrate people of all ages getting their moment in the spotlight, and I hope it
Yeah.
continues.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned Tatiana, who I worked with last summer, very in a very brief, great way in a show, and her talent was so extraordinary. We were like, we have to hire her. Where did she come from? Who is this person? And we all just kept saying, like, I can't wait to see her star rise. And I don't think it was even on the radar for her that she was going to get this big opportunity this spring. It was like a year ago. And so I think that's really, it should be inspiring to everybody that you can see someone's talent and be like, wow, like that's something. I'm not really sure where that talent fits right now, but it's going to fit somewhere
Mhm.
someday. And I think I've seen a lot of performers like that. We're on the other side of the table now where they don't even know how good they are. And there's people like me who are like, I cannot wait to see where that person goes. And they have no idea that that conversation is happening. Or I keep them in my back pocket. I'm like, I don't remember that person. They're not right for anything right now, but I definitely feel like I love that talent and I want to be able to play in a room with that talent. So I keep them in my mind, and they don't even know that I'm thinking of them. You don't know the conversations that are happening about you. And I think that could apply to me as well. I think certain people have said to me, "Oh my gosh, Shannon, we've been talking about you for years." And I was like, "You
Yes,
have? I didn't
absolutely.
know that."
Well, I think that goes back to what you said about how you do anything is how you or how you do anything is how you do
That's
everything.
right.
What I find for myself is sometimes I get auditions where I'm like, "Oh my goodness, I am not right for this role. Like I am not right for this." But then I think to myself, it's not about being right for this. It's about showing casting that I'm someone who's easy to work with, that I'm fun, that I can do the best I can with this material, that I can get off book, that I can do all the things. It's not about this job. It's about building the connections for all those other jobs and building these relationships that will outlast this one job that I really didn't care for anyway.
That's the word. The word is relationships. That is what this business really is about. Because look, I mean, not every job is going to be like, oh, I really know this person. I've invested. You have to build that over time. And some of them are one offs, like really fast work that you do together. And it's like really, you just have to be like really deft with your talent and know how to kind of like maneuver. But I think, with high pressure jobs like on the set of SNL, I often use dancers that I know because I know that they're going to understand that I'm not going to be able to hold their hand as much and that we have to make quick decisions. And that if someone gets cut from a shot or if I have to like quickly change things around and cut something that they loved or change something, that it's not personal. And that puts pressure on me if I feel like they're not having a good time or if I've hurt someone's feelings. But most of the people that I work with in a situation like that are people that I know and have worked with many times. And we have a shorthand that I can just go, hey, can you go over here and do this? And they're like, yep, I got it. And so that's where what you're talking about comes in handy. I think there's definitely opportunities where I get to work with people that I've never worked with, or like in a masterclass situation, if you're willing to go into a room with someone and just work with them for a couple hours, or if I'm doing pre-production and I have the opportunity to work with people that sort of just see how they are and meet them. It's not a judgment. It's really just a, hey, nice to meet you. Let's like work together a little bit. And that's where you start to build that relationship that you said that, you never know. A couple years later, it might be like, she's perfect. And also like, I know her, I've seen her go through these, like we've put her through the ringer a couple
Yeah.
times and she always comes out really well. And I believe in that talent. So let's take a chance. Like those are the things that happen. I think it's happened for everyone that actually moves up the ladder. At one point, somebody says, let's take a chance on that person. Let's take a chance. They've proven themselves. But I have a feeling, I have a gut feeling. Let's go. And that happens for everyone at some point. You're given the opportunity, a door is opened, and you have to walk through it.
I think so much of it is continuing to show up every single day, every time you can. It's not even as I was going to say even on the days when it's hard, but I think especially on the days when it's hard because
Especially
it's a muscle. You have to train it that I'm going to show up even when I don't want to. And I think that is a huge thing. And I think that has been one of the mainstays of your career, continuously showing up.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I also I got lucky. Like I got to work with a lot of amazing people and I saw that it's not always going to be rosy. You have to perform when you're not feeling well. You have to doing 8 shows a week, you're not always going to feel 100%, right? So I did that for almost 30 years. And it's my job to figure out how to get through that. The audience doesn't need to know that. It's my job. And same with the choreography and other side of things, the other side of the table that you don't always feel creative or you're not always like this is going to be the best work ever. Sometimes you're like, I don't know how to get into this. I'm not sure, but I'm just going to employ the things I normally do and see what comes and trust and try to keep going at it. That it's sometimes things come to me right away and other times I'm like, okay, let's try like just see what happens. Like maybe the bad stuff will turn into good stuff. I don't know.
And
You
sometimes it
know,
does.
sometimes it does. Sometimes it does. I learned how to get out of my own way a lot
That's
creatively,
hard.
not to judge things when they're first coming out of my mind. And sometimes I go, as a choreographer, I go into a room by myself most of the time. I'm usually there by myself because I just get very insecure about sometimes what's coming out. And I think I think they can apply for everybody when you're learning a song, when you're doing a monologue, when you're making choices in a scene or a dance or whatever. Just you have to just kind of go with your gut first. And then you can refine and then you can ask questions. But if you're constantly stopping yourself in the creative process, that's you're never going to find your flow.
It can be so hard to just
Yeah.
get started
Oh yeah.
because I know I'm in my own way
Totally.
very frequently, and then I have to go, "Why am I stopping?" "Oh, because I want it to be perfect?" What is perfect if it doesn't ever start? Like, I have to just start.
Yes. Yes. And one of my mentors, Chet Walker, who's gone now, he's been gone a couple years. He used to always say to his classes, he would have us be in class or have us be in rehearsal, especially with the Fosse material. And he knew it backwards and forwards. And he had worked with Bob and worked with Gwen and we'd be working really hard. And he would stop the music and say, "What are you waiting for? What are you holding back? Why aren't you, what are you waiting for?" And it's such a good, and it wasn't an angry, it was literally a question. If you are holding anything back, what are you waiting for? Now is the time. You're in this room with this moment. What are you waiting for? And it comes up a lot for me. And I say it a lot to people too, that it's sometimes it's not in the beginning that you want to ask yourself that question. It's in the middle, in the process where you're checking in and you're like coming up against a wall or you're feeling discouraged about even a process or just your career in general. Like, well, then what are you waiting for? What haven't you done that you want to do? What are the walls within yourself that are holding you back? Like asking that question in a loving way to yourself, I think is a really amazing thing.
Shannon, oh my goodness. I feel like this has been a therapy session, and I love it so
The
much.
doctor is in. The
She's
doctor is in.
in. Well, looking back on your career so far, you've had so many huge wins and so much good. What do you hope your legacy will be?
Oh my God. Well, it's interesting when you said you've had so many wins. I thought, have I? Like, right?
To
Like,
anyone else in
right.
the room,
That's what I mean.
yes.
It's so funny. I'm like, yeah, I guess I really have because I've lived with both sides of it, right? I've lived with the big wins, but I've also lived with the big lows and the times when I wasn't working or I wasn't happy or I wasn't. And I think that I just like saying that out loud because I think, you know, now, um, here I am in this moment where I'm really excited about what's coming. I'm really excited about the things that are on my plate and maybe potentially coming. But it's also terrifying too,
Yeah.
because you're like, I don't know what's coming and I don't know like where I'll go. And um, I'm a look forward person, not necessarily a look back person. But I'm really proud of the girl that came to New York City with very little money in her pocket, who had this opportunity to do a Broadway show and then is still sitting here over 30 years later, part of the conversation, um, you know, passing on what she knows and happy to be here and looking forward to the future and totally grateful for every moment spent in this career.
And I think all of that is why you've had this career that you've had and that it's only gonna continue getting better. I mean, the
Hope
fact that
so.
you just made your choreographic debut on Broadway, excuse me? After all the other things you've done, you couldn't just be a performer. You had to also do SNL. You had to be on Broadway as a choreographer. You're doing you're everything.
Well, yeah, but I also feel like that's the thing though, also that one thing that I will say has been a constant for me is do not put me in a box because the minute you put me in a box, I want to break out of it.
Yes, yes,
Right?
Shannon.
The minute you do that, that is definitely part of my personality. Like, oh, you're a jazz choreographer. Am I? No, I can do other things. Like, I think not ever being pigeonholed was a life goal. Period, full stop. And just even sitting here saying that, look, I had Alex Timbers take a kind of a shot on me in a way that I hadn't had a Broadway choreographer credit on my resume, but he saw something in me and in the work that I had done and the conversations that we started having where he was like, I think you're this person. And I needed him to do that too. So he gave me the opportunity and opened that door, for me that way this year. And so, I look forward to doing that for other people and also excited about the doors that have started opening for me in a whole new way.
This is just the beginning. As well, how you do anything is how you do everything,
That's
and
right.
you do anything So well, Shannon. It's really unfair to the rest of us. Well,
Thank you.
thank you so much to the incredible Shannon Lewis for being here on Had to Ask. I feel so inspired. I think I also need to lay down and just think. I'm gonna replay this back and just go, okay, Shannon Lewis believes that we can do this. We got this. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for having me.
You are such a joy, and I am truly so honored to be here with you today.
Oh, the honor is mine. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yay.
Shannon Lewis. I don't know why I give you it's like your full name. What's your middle name?
Nicole.
Shannon Nicole Lewis.
This episode of Had to Ask was hosted and produced by me, Melanie Sutrathada. Filming, editing, and co-production by the amazing Joseph Loper. Filmed on location at the iconic Stay Gold Suite at the Chatwall in New York City. Make sure to follow, leave a rating, and subscribe. It helps the show grow and gets us one step closer to world domination. See you next time on Had to Ask.